right. Hello, everybody. This is Matt Orozco from Macabre Daily here. Very excited to have a conversation today with actor of the new Shudder Originals film Quicksand, Allan Hawco. Allan, nice to have you here.
Pleasure. Pleasure is all mine. Thank you very much. Welcome to my backyard in St. John's, Newfoundland.
Looks beautiful. Every time I see pictures of Canada, I'm always like, man, it's so much nicer looking than the United States. But that's a conversation
Oh,
for another
come
day.
on. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well, Allan, really appreciate you taking the time to have a conversation with us about the film. And again, this comes out next Friday, the 14th of July on Shudder. So if you have a subscription, you'll get it there. If you don't, you've got plenty of time to sign up for one. So, Allan, how did you get involved with Quicksand, and what was it that excited you about the role and specifically the film overall?
Um, it came to me through one of the producers, Nicholas Rees. He and I worked together on Jack Ryan in Colombia, and we had a pretty great time and mutual respect for each other. He reached out to me a couple of years previous, and started talking about me coming back to do something, and then this film went, and he called me. He's like, "Brother, I want you to come down." And I was like, "Okay." I read the script, and the script is such a it's a trip, for an actor because it's on the surface could be perceived as some kind of a gimmick, and I guess the title could mislead someone into that, and it is linked into that, obviously. But for me, at the heart of it was like about these two people who are in the middle of the worst moment of their relationship, and they've been married and they have kids, and then they're ending their marriage together, and they end up in the worst possible scenario where they're stuck together for an extended period of time. And as an actor, all of those pages, all that time, all of that work, where it's just the both of you dealing with the elements. There's action, sure, and there's all that stuff, but at the heart of it is drama between two people. And the challenge of that for me as an actor was that's what I wanted to take on, and that's why I was into it. And then I got to work with Carolina and all these other people, and go back to Colombia, which I love. I have a real connection to the place and the people, like really, really. So it was a no-brainer.
That's great. So it sounds like you had some experience with being in Colombia prior with the work you did on Jack Ryan. What are some of the things you just love about the place, the culture, the location?
It's one of my favorite places I've ever been, and people are the biggest currency. It's like there's a real there's a real authenticity to them. Everyone's in a good mood. You walk through Bogota, where we shot this film, and I've shot in a number of other places in the country. There's a vibe of like people who are proud to be there. They just are comfortable being there, and I really like that because it makes you feel comfortable, and it makes you feel like you want to be there. And I get that because we're like that here in Newfoundland. It's like it's distinctly different than the other places around us, and we're proud of it, and we like people to visit it. And then the crew, is a Colombian crew. They work so hard. They remind me of my crew here because I have a film production company here. We have a killer crew, and it's like the similar vibe. They would work very well together. It's like the small stuff. I never saw anyone sweating the small stuff. I saw challenges, I saw solutions, and I saw a lot of people having a really good time working, taking pride in their work. Like they were into what we were doing, Carolina and I and the rest of the cast, they were into it. Like anyone who does anything in film, like they have everything you need there. They're a super competent team, and a pleasure to work with.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I mean, I feel like some of the people are part of what make, I mean, no one makes a film by themselves, or at least very few people make a film by themselves.
Yeah.
And so it's nice when you have a great crew to support the work that's coming up on screen, because all that wouldn't happen with if nothing happens behind the scenes.
Yeah, if everyone's having a bad time, it's also like, I've been through every iteration of how it could be at this stage, and it's like this is the best job in the world, and if you don't like it, don't do it. Don't do It's really hard. So go do anything else. Just don't be here. I don't want you here. If you don't want to be here, everyone gets tired, everyone gets frustrated, but if you're tired and you're frustrated because you're trying to execute your best, or you're trying to deliver more than you feel like you're capable of because you want to strive for that, friction, tension, whatever can happen, and that's totally acceptable. But if you're just not into it, like just don't be here because it slows the thing down. You don't expect the crew to be watching your every take, crying at everything you do. You know, they have a job to do, but when they're into it and you're into what they're doing, it's a perfect mix. And I had that on this film. We had it big time. And Carolina is local celebrity, like it's a huge deal. And she and I had never met, and we had never worked together before. We didn't discuss a thing. We did our own work individually, independently, and we got to work, and it went boom. And she's the same way I am. I feel. I mean, I don't mean to speak for her, but what I read from her was she wants it to be an experience that's worth having too. And it was super challenging. But neither one of us were complaining about the sandwiches. You know, it's like we were like, you need certain things to when you're in a discomfort zone. Like we had to have a bucket of hot water to pour over us when we got out of that pit, and we had to have a shower, and there's certain things you need to have to kind of be able to get ready to keep doing it. But we weren't looking for like, the M&Ms in the rider. It was like nobody there had that attitude. And the best people that I work with, by the way, they don't care about any of that stuff either. It's about what's the work we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reciprocal relationship that happens when people are working with each other as opposed to kind of working for themselves just together. And you get a lot more cohesion when people are working with one another. And I suspect, you can't really bring an ego to a set like this, or at least the location, because I'd say over under. I mean, how much time do you think you spent in mud?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not saying Carolina and I don't have egos, or Andreas doesn't, or our DP doesn't, or our producers don't. But there's a time and place, like, and ego is a funny word. I don't mean it in a negative way. It's
Sure.
just like we're all there to work, and it was tough. We were in that pit for a long time, and we had a lot of pages to do every day, and we had a lot of and and none of that mattered for she and I, and for Andreas. We were just what's happening between the two of us, and what are we doing? How do we get there? What work did we have to do at night or in prep? Sorry, for our next day. Like you know, what did we have to do to fully embody these people, to be there with each other? And none of this then matters. And it helps when you're in a situation where you're playing a character who's going through the worst experience of their life and you kind of feel like you are too. Like for me, that's a bit of a gift because you're like, there is a shower over there. Like I've done military movies, where you're like feeling like, geez, this is hard. And then you think about like the guys who were really doing it. And you're like, I did this one movie years ago in Jordan, and one of our military advisors, we had a really, really heavy day of a giant firefight, grape huts, gear, at the end of the day, or prep for the day, maybe, he was like, look, remember at the end of the day, you get to leave, go back to your hotel room and have a shower, and you can have a steak dinner if you want. When the people who are really doing this, they're really living this experience. Like, so it's a gift to kind of be able to play with it and pretend to live in it and experience that with your fellow actors. And I'm not, this is not kumbaya stuff. Like you have to work and do your work. You have to be ready and you have to be ready. But it just gelled. We all kind of had the same approach to it.
And I think, on that note, if is there any preparation you had to do for the role to get yourself in the mindset? I mean, it sounds like being stuck in the pit in between takes probably helped you maintain the mental side of where am I, what am I doing? But was there any preparation beforehand you had to do to put yourself in those kind of conditions?
Yeah. So my prep is very much, the type of actor, not always, but most often I'm not bringing in energy. It affects me negatively to be bringing in negative energy to the work because the character feels a negative energy. If that's, I've never said that out loud before, so forgive me. I'm workshopping an idea with you live, but it's like, our props team had to go fish out the knife, the book, the gun, they had to get in that pit and dig it out. And you're sitting there in the pit and you're like, I'll get it. And we, people are around and you're like, I don't want to be a zombie in the character with, because Josh wouldn't be either, like, Josh is me, I'm Josh. So the prep work that I did for it is like, I have a pretty extensive amount of backstory and a number of other layers of stuff that I do. So you're ready, ready, ready. Then you're not forcing yourself into decisions about how you're going to say or do something. And in a movie like this in particular, you can't, I don't think. And Carolina didn't do it. Her prep work was, she was ready, ready, ready. And then we just kind of ran together, and then we didn't know where it was going to go, and we didn't have set plans for it. And the script, a good script like this is a really well written script, so it dictates. I mean, it's funny, right? Because it's called Quicksand. It could be a thing where people are like an eye roll. No, it's a really intensely written drama about two people going through really, really tough circumstances, like the worst of circumstances. So, and there's tons of layers in there. And I didn't talk to the writer, and I didn't ask anyone what my reasoning for any of these things were. I just gave myself tons of options that made sense to me. And eventually they all start to work out in your head, and they tap into your backstory. And whatever Carolina's backstory was and whatever work she did, I have no idea. We never talked about it, never had to. So we just sat there and played. And it's like, so that prep was my prep for something like that is not like, what is quicksand? Like, shit, who cares? You're stuck in mud. Like, we know what it is. You're going to be stuck. Someone's going to tell me, and he doesn't know either. But my prep was like, I don't want to be thinking about any of this. I don't want to be thinking about what this movie is going to look like or what I look like or if my hair looks okay. I don't, whatever that shit is. I don't want any of it. I want, what do I need to be ready to be alive in this guy? And I don't know if I achieved it. I'm not trying to say I did, but that's what I go for. That's what I'm striving for. I'm going to continue doing for the rest of my career if I'm lucky.
Well, I mean, if I may say so myself, I do think you achieved that quite well, in that there is, I
Oh,
consider this
thanks.
film to be very much like a human relationship drama, that happens to be happening at like in a survival context, right? So it is more about that emotional connection, but there just has to be the worst things happening around you. And I just got a couple more quick ones for you. Would you consider yourself an outdoors person before this movie, and would you consider yourself one after it?
I grew up in the wilderness, no, like a semi version of the wilderness, so I'm super comfortable in it. I don't do a lot of time there now, weirdly. Like I live in this like idyllic, beautiful small city in a really rustic part of the world it's really quite stunningly beautiful, and but it's very rural, and I have a television production company, and that's why I live here and produce. I'm in the middle of production of a show right now. So I'm a real city guy. Like I like my cottage, or as we call them here, cabin. My go away place is the center of a metropolis. That's what I want. That's where I like to relax. Where because I live in the I walk my dog every day. I leave this house in with my friends, and we walk our dogs in on the cliffside of this ocean. It's a 5 minute drive over there, and I am
Wow.
in the middle of nowhere. So I can be either. Uh, it's funny, Bogota. People think of Colombia as the tropical parts of Colombia, but Bogota, the elevation is so high. It is really cold there at times, right?
Hmm.
And rainy, and it's very much like the spring and fall. Well, spring here. So I love standing in the woods and being in touch with it, but I love a good cappuccino.
Yeah, bring
I
the
love
two
a good
together somehow.
I love a good martini. So
Well, last one for you, Alan, is you're programming a double feature with Quicksand. What's the movie you're putting before it?
that's another movie I'm doing called The Breach, and I don't even know if it's going to be on Shudder. There's another horror I put there, but if you're what's funny? Had dinner last night with Malcolm McDowell, who's one of the cast of our show, and Mark Critch is his show called Son of a Critch. Mark suggested we do a screening of one of Malcolm's films and Quicksand for a lark some night. And I was like, I don't know if I want to open for Malcolm McDowell. I think we're just letting Malcolm McDowell's movie do its thing. So I don't know. I don't know. What would you put with it?
Anaconda is the first one that comes to mind, just because there is
Mm.
some parody there. But surviving
Deep
the
water.
game, deep
Deep
water. Oh, that's
water.
a good one.
I watched Deepwater and prep for it because it's a similar theme of two people who were put through a circumstance of different film completely, but it did have the two people in the stuck in the harrowing circumstance of shooting and living in terms of the characters. So I didn't mean to cut you off there, but it
No,
just came to me.
no. No, when genius strikes, you let it in. So um well, Alan, I really appreciate the time you spent with us today to talk about the film. And just a reminder for everyone listening and watching this, it will be released on Shudder exclusively on Friday, July 14th. I believe we also have a screener for The Breach that we're going to be reviewing because I think that comes out next week, if I'm not mistaken. So looking forward to that as well, Alan. And again, really appreciate your time and good luck with the rest of the productions you're working on.
Thanks, buddy. Really nice to talk to you.
Same here.
Thank you.